Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Okay, so we had just completed the vocabulary selection with regards to technologies and scientific jargons, right? So now we're looking at section C, and now we're looking at reading comprehension. I hope you're excited about that. It's always great to go through reading comprehension exercises to test your skills in finding out relevant information and also using it appropriately in terms of the responses that you give with regards to the questions. So we've got instructions there on top. Read the article which talks about mankind's future in space exploration. After you have finished reading the article, look at the questions that follow. So there are questions in the next slide pertaining to this reading comprehension. Okay, so our future far from here. So let's get started, and I just want to say when you're reading through this, ensure that you pick up on particular words that you do not understand. Ensure that you find out the meaning, find out the definition, so that you can broaden your understanding of this reading comprehension. So listen to how I read it and then compare it to how you pronounce the words and pay attention to my use of intonations. Okay, so it was a little over half a century ago that man's first put a trembling foot outside the comfortable warmth that is Earth and sent Sputnik into orbit around our planet. Now scientists are planning the human race's next step onto other planets and ultimately into other solar systems far from our sun. I spoke with two scientists who are at the forefront of this new frontier. Alan Holmes works for the University of California in their Manned Space Exploration Department, and Becky Manson works for an imaginatively named organization called the Next Earth Project. Will our future look anything like science fiction movies? I look optimistically at Alan for tales of ray guns and teleporting. The space elevator was popularized by the science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke, and that could be a reality in 30 years or so. My bemused look encourages him to explain further. The elevator will basically be a huge cable attached to Earth at one end and going up into space and allowing us to move huge loads up into orbit at a fraction of current costs. Without such a device, we're never really going to be able to successfully build and orbit the huge spaceships that we'll require to explore outside our solar system. Another thorny problem that mankind faces in its quest to reach for the stars are the distances involved and therefore the speed at which we must tackle them. Alan Holmes is optimistic here as well. We can't for the longer trips of the future. We can't continue to use conventional rocket engines for the longer trips of the future. It would take thousands of years to reach nearby stars. To get higher speeds, we will need to work on, and indeed are working on, new propulsion systems such as ion drives and even solar sails that harness the solar wind like the sailing ships that used winds in centuries past. I arrived for my meeting with Becky Manson. I asked her first for some explanation behind the name of her organization. We decided to call ourselves the Next Earth Project because that's ultimately what we're looking for. Professor Stephen Hawking once said that to survive as a species, we will have to colonize other planets as soon as possible. So we may need to find another Earth, as we're doing a good job of destroying this one. Well, that's unfortunate. Once we arrive on a new planet, the battle to make it habitable will already have begun decades before in a process called terraforming. Becky explains to me something about terraforming. This is the name we give to the long work involved in making the atmosphere of the planet breathable. We send robots there many years before us to begin doing things like creating water, oxygen, and so on. But it's a long process. I asked both scientists whether they thought all the billions of dollars being spent on space exploration was justifiable. It's our destiny, replied Alan. We owe it to the future generations to do it. Becky fired the question back at me. Would you tell Christopher Columbus not to build his ships? All right, okay. This was a pretty interesting article about space exploration. Really exciting future that we have to look forward to. All right, so join me in my next lesson. We will look at the reading comprehension questions pertaining to this reading article. See you soon.